Asan Anu. Some of the components of Anu Nation are A New Life Global Ministries, Enlightenment and Transformation, Sadulu House, and Osiris Life Spiritual Services. SaduluHouse.com is the school component of Anu Nation, where spiritual empowerment through education and training is emphasized. One way that is accomplished is through our monthly webinars. Our webinars are packed with foundational information, rituals, and live instruction to empower your spiritual work. At SaduluHouse.com, you can view our diverse list of topics for this year that range from meditation to sex magic. And you can also register for any of the webinars at your convenience, sign up for our introductory Orisha class, schedule a spiritual reading, and sign up for the Anu Spiritual Training course. Enlightenment and Transformation is the media component of Anu Nation. Here, you can view all of our archived shows from over the years to our current segments. They include Chief Speaks, Masterminds Monday, Anu Asafo, Thunderground Thursdays, and Foundational Fridays. You can also visit us on our YouTube channels. They are Enlightenment and Transformation, Orisha Yoruba, and Anu Nation. Osiris Life Spiritual Services is for those who are ready to take the necessary actions to bring your life into holistic balance. Here we offer consistent monthly one-on-one coaching, solutions that are tailored just for you, practical hands-on self-development techniques that will accompany your monthly readings, and customized practical strategies designed for you that guarantee positive results. Simply choose the package that best fits your needs. And last but not least, AlphaOmegaStore.com. The Alpha Omega Store is our online botanica where we offer divination tools, herbs and incense, DVDs, books, and other hard-to-find ritual items. You can also get our best-selling foundational book, Grasping the Root of Divine Power. Other great works from Anu Nation are Shrine and Altar, Solutions for Dysfunctional Family Relationships, and Natural Hair for Young Women. All great books to assist you on your journey. To find out more on how to get involved with Anu Nation, visit our websites and YouTube channels and be sure to sign up for our monthly newsletter.
Life is unrehearsed, it's real time, a journey to transverse. Like a child breathing at birth for the first time, mind overwhelmed by past to serve. And so I dived in head first. Now I'm drowning in His word, the suffering, the worst. I'm questioning the truth. The new babe's torture, stillborn, mother killed the daughter. Young qualified mortal, but immersed in water. Now I'm baptized in fire. So I'm calling you Father, yeah. Jehovah, Abba, Eli, Yahweh, Allah, Jesus. I'm immersed.
Peace. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another segment of Community. We'll call it Sunrise Salutation Component. And I trust that all of you have awakened this dawning in power, gotten out of your bed with strength, and felt strong, felt empowered, felt stabilized, and definitely felt the conviction and the strength of your own life purpose, or divine Nia, as I like to refer to it. So I'm Chief Yuya, and you are on the Enlightenment and Transformation channel. Before we even move anywhere, let me give you the call in 515-605-9862. 515-605-9862 is a call-in number if you want to call in and listen, or if you want to ask a responsible question. No, not so much a responsible question. If you want to share something responsibly, then you can call in and hit the number one. If not, then you could just listen. That's fine too. But we've had a couple of days, past few days, of some interesting segments. I think you all would agree, right? We had two guests on The Strong, one being our sister Lola, came on Wednesday night for our nighttime session, and we had an opportunity to just discuss some of the faux pas and just some of the embarrassing moments that individuals go through and how we respond to it within the conscious groups and conscious collectives and cultural groups and cultural collectives. And then yesterday, midday, we had on Leah Bayaka, and she discussed just some of her life experiences as it relates to mating and courting and divine union or marriage with other individuals from a monogamous perspective and a polygynous perspective in the conscious collective. And I thought it was a lively segment. Obviously, for those with ears to hear, everyone hears something different, and it's kind of what I wanted to speak about a little bit today. But everyone picks up on different things, and sometimes when I'm speaking to people, or especially when we have callers calling in, depending on what's being said, I may grow a little quiet, because you don't want to interrupt what's actually happening. And it's not, the silence is not always, it's not necessarily acquiescence, or silence shouldn't automatically be associated with agreeance. But sometimes it's good to be quiet to allow all the voices that are being said, uh, or all the voices that are expressing themselves, to have room to stretch out and talk. So a person can be saying one thing, but then you might hear something else underneath or to the side. Oh, I forgot to mute everything. Sorry about that. Let me mute on my personal leashes. But yeah, you might hear something, and there's information on the left, there's information on the right, top, bottom. So you want to give that person sometimes an opportunity just to get it all out in different spaces. So I didn't speak too much, but again, um, those with ears to hear would have gotten what they needed to get. And you know, one of the things that I wanted to speak about in that sense is a lot of times we lose out on different information that we can receive because we're not completely comfortable with the presentation of the information. We become almost spoiled in that sense. It has to be given to us a certain way or we pay no attention. And when you have that kind of mindset, you're not going to learn anything anyway. Like when I hear people say that, like, oh, why don't you do it this way? I learn better that way. I learn better this way. I pretty much ignore those people, because if you're coming to someone who's giving you information, especially if they're giving you information for free, especially if it's free, and you're making requests or sometimes even complaints and demands on how you want to receive it, you're not really anyone who's really here to learn. You're not a scholar, or even a student. Forget a scholar. You're not even a student. So sometimes it's important too to understand how we end up passing opportunities. There's certain gateways and portals that are open to us on an interdimensional level that we end up walking by because we see it just as an ordinary object, or or ordinary person. A lot of times in our studies of metaphysics and quantum dimensions and quantum metaphysics, we think that portals are primarily opened through chant, ritual, and objects. Like, we go to this place, to this river, or we go to this mountain, this particular patch of land, and that opens and leads you to another place because there's a ley line there, or there's a lot of electromagnetic energy there. And sometimes we don't realize that, yeah, absolutely, there are places that exist on the planet that through the usage of proper formula and proper combination, you can go from one place to the other. But there are people like that as well. You see, and a lot of times, even if you read your mythology, in order to go from one place to another, especially when it's a geographical location, a physical location, one may have to go through an unpleasant experience. Like they may have to go through a swamp, or they may have to climb a mountain, or jump off of a cliff and trust that, they're not going to die. Midway through, they're going to go through a portal, or they're going to go down through a waterfall that's going to lead them to somewhere else. But ultimately, they had to go through an experience of discomfort. And through that experience of discomfort, and of course, usually the utilization of other combinations that exist, sometimes the other combination is a good heart, the purity of heart. And they're able to now go from one place to another, one plane of existence to another plane of existence. Well, the same thing exists in people. You see, sometimes a person will say something or will present themselves a certain way, and you may not like it. It may feel uncomfortable. I've heard this so often. I guess I could say in the conscious, collective, free information circles. And I guess that would primarily be Blog Talk and YouTube and other podcast platforms, right? I've heard people speak about people who maybe use profanity, and they say, oh, they curse too much for me, I can't listen to them. Well, you're not really trying to learn anything then. That's the truth of it. When you get into this, and I know that feels very harsh, but you should be kind of used to that by now for me anyway. So that shouldn't be any big shocker. But when you're coming to learn, you go through that. See, that's the science of the fool. That's the science of Eshu. That's the science of the person who's able to morph, shape, form, and figure. You become anything you need to become in order to elevate to where you need to be or are supposed to be. So, you don't put all of these stipulations on your path to greatness. I'll be great if you make it this way. I'll ascend to my highest self and my highest idea if you create a road like this. But if it's rocky and it's gonna hurt my feet, or I don't have strong calves, so if I have to go up and climb, I'm not doing it. Well, again, and I've expressed this previously, the universe owes you no favors. I owe you no favors. No teacher owes you anything. So whether you ascend or not, I could care less. That's for all of you listening right on the line right now. I could care. It doesn't matter to me. If I know I did what I was supposed to do, it doesn't matter. You decide where you want to fall. You decide if you want to come back again to this existence. You decide if you want to transcend and take this and go further. Do whatever you want. But if I were to attach to your success in that way, I would limit myself by my material and egoic aspiration. And me, I would start thinking that, oh, this person isn't going to get it. They're not going to make it unless I give it to them. Unless they come in under this new umbrella, unless they become my student, they're not going to ascend. So I have to do all that I can to make sure that they come over here or to make sure they're my student. You see? Now I trap myself in my own egoic prison of thinking that I have to be the one, that I'm Neo or something. I have to be the savior of the world without realizing that there are many worlds. There are many dimensions, you see? So no one owes you anything in that sense. So a lot of times we end up missing out on opportunities to change our timeline, right? Opportunities to transcend different dimensions. And what do I mean by change the timeline? Well, you can go into different portals where you actually can travel back in time, travel forward in time. And you can adjust an alternative or parallel reality. So you can experience a parallel reality. You see, you can go back in time and you could let me not say that. You could redirect the path of someone who may exist today, who may have done something or is going to do something that may bring great harm to society. You see, and of course that sets off a trigger of events. Now, in this particular existence, in this dimension, things will proceed as they have, but you create now a parallel timeline, like a branch. You see, now you can do this by opening portals in your own mind, right? But sometimes you'll meet certain people or you'll cross certain puzzles or dilemmas that if you crack them open, you open a portal to go perform these different things or to experience these different realities. So I'm citing this because yesterday and even Wednesday, we had two people on the show and I didn't totally agree with what they were saying. And yesterday more so I expressed that, right? And that's not a dig or a knock or anything at all. Because sometimes in order to get through the portal of an experience or a person, you may have to hear something you don't agree with. You see, you may have to step outside of the circumference of your own wisdom. And just because you don't agree doesn't mean that you're right. It just means you don't agree. Doesn't mean that the other person is wrong because you don't agree with them. It's just that's not my angle that I approach it from. That's not my perspective. I'm coming from this side. Okay, well, I'm coming from this side, and my chemistry and my makeup causes me to approach from this angle, and this angle seems to work for me. Okay, cool. Well, I'm going to approach from this angle, but I'm going to sit and learn about your angle. I want to listen and learn what your angle is because I may have to use that angle one day. You see, because let's say we're all approaching a center, right? We're all approaching the same center, and that center has different spokes. It's like a big wheel with spokes in it. Now, if you notice, in many indigenous traditions, dimensional planes often are depicted as wheels with spokes, but it's usually some form of wheel, and it has different spokes that comes off of it. Even if you look at your zodiacal chart to give you all an easier or more accessible representation, I guess I could say, right? It's a wheel basically with spokes, and each spoke is represented by an animal or a symbolic archetype, right? But it's the same thing. It's a wheel with spokes. And you have this in so many other traditions. You have it in the Mayan tradition. You have it in the Lenape traditions. You have it in Zulu tradition. I mean, we could just go through it. I'll be here all day with that. But you have the wheel idea with different spokes. And I may say, well, I'm going to approach this like a Pisces. And I don't really like the way Leos approach things, but the Piscean way works for me. But the Leo path may be what I may have to use at some point, because maybe I may shift over from Pisces to Aquarius. And now that complement with being the Leo, I might say, well, man, to be balanced, I have to now jump to the Leo side. I didn't know I was going to go from Pisces to Aquarius. Good thing I learned about that Leo pathway. You see? So it's important for us to hear each other out. A lot of times we miss that. And I played a song earlier that I did maybe 4 years ago, 3, 4. I don't remember. You know, my songs are like my shows. When I do them, I don't really listen to them again. You know, so and most of them are unfinished. You know, but that was a song I did for someone, and it was. You notice there's a line in there where the word Jesus is used, right? And every time I replayed and I played around with it and mixed it and stuff, that word always kind of irked me. But I didn't cut it out, because there were other things that I had wrote in the lyrics that were necessary and that complemented that particular line, you see. And sometimes you have to bring a little bit of an earthquake. You have to shatter and shake things up in order to shift the rubble and create new air, to clear the air. And there's an idea that sometimes we avoid, sometimes we move away from. And again, it's the idea of uncomfortability, you see, discomfort. And you can almost listen and hear when you listen, even when I have callers on the show, things like that, or when I tackle certain subjects and the way I may present them, you'll hear, or you can feel people turning off quickly. Like yesterday, I said something that someone commented on later when I was doing a consultation. And I said, yeah, you know, like Leah had spoke about, yeah, and I just want to have good male energy around me. And I said, no, that's not happening. And nobody's trying to be your friend. Like if you some, you know, and she said, well, nah, brothers I speak to. I said, yeah, they're waiting for you. They're in wait. She said, oh, I know it. Well, that means you admitted they're not really your friend. Friends don't try to have sex with each other. You know, so in saying that, of course, and I knew it was going to happen. I even mentioned, you know, I was joking. I said, yeah, well, I wasn't joking. I was telling the truth, but I was telling the truth jokingly. And I said, yeah, like I don't have any female friends. If you come around me and we're vibing like that, I'm going to bang you over a sofa. I'm going to bang it out. You know, now I was saying it jokingly, but it was a truthful statement. And I knew it, you know, some people had, when I was doing consultations later, the people who had heard the segment were like, you know, well, Chief, you know, wow, that was kind of rough. You mean to tell me I can't be friends with a man and this, not, you know, and we kind of go through that process, you know, sometimes where there's a, there may be information that's shocking to us. And I've said that before, but people hear what they want to hear. And sometimes because of that inability to truly listen, to truly receive what's being said, you miss the portal that's being opened for you. You see, and I relate this to Alice in Wonderland, or the adventures of Alice in Wonderland. And that's a story. And I thought about it. I was thinking about it yesterday, actually, as Sister Leah was speaking. I was thinking about Alice in Wonderland. And I was just thinking about, I hope people are listening to even her pain and her hurt. You could hear it as she was speaking. She was very calm at first. And then when I questioned her on certain things, you could see that was the soft, still wounded spots. And she kind of flared up, which is okay. Sometimes that happens. But she was going through her own portals. She was opening up different chambers in her memory and reliving some of those things. And you could feel that angst and that anger still very present, still very much alive. And of course, a lot of times that happens when you still have children. You may have a union where children came out of it. So every time you look at those children, you might still be dealing with the aftermath of what was promised and maybe what wasn't fulfilled, or what you might have promised yourself, or what you might have promised your own children, or what you might have felt or thought was going to happen and didn't occur. But there's a significant piece to this as it relates to the subconscious and the unconscious. I'm going to get into it in a second. I'm just going to bring in a phone call, then I'm going to go through it. 797. You're on Sunrise.
Alafia, Chief.
Hey, Alafia, brother. How are you?
How are you doing?
Things are okay.
We're doing very well, thank you, Chief. We're
good.
Doing very well. Thank you very much.
Good. That's good to hear.
I caught yesterday's show, Chief,
Mm-hmm.
Which was really, really deep. The sister spoke really well,
mm-hmm.
and she really put a very, very clear perspective on things.
Yeah.
Which got me thinking a lot about how young men are developing, and how the elder men, particularly the elder men, are training the youth in how to look for qualities in a mate, and also what to value with it. And what really timed strongly for me was when she was articulating that men in the so-called conscious step to the Western mindset. And
say that again, brother. I'm sorry, your phone broke up a little bit. Could you repeat your last sentence?
Chief.
That's okay.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
they often step to sisters in the conscious community with a Western mindset.
Mm-hmm. With a Western mindset. Okay.
Yeah, and so that was really powerful for me.
Okay. Yeah, but definitely. Did you get an opportunity to check out her video that she did?
Not as yet, Chief.
Okay.
But it
oh, brother, your phone is breaking up. Your phone is cutting in and out.
Okay.
For the first time. Normally you're clear too,
I'm
man.
Sorry.
I don't know what this is. Yeah, your phone's cutting in and out.
Okay. Chief, I also wanted to another special thank you to you, Chief.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah, we didn't catch any of that, brother. Your phone is breaking up pretty terribly. I don't know.
My phone's breaking up badly. Oh dear.
Yeah, it's like it's coming in and out. I don't know.
Okay.
Whenever you get ready to say something, it breaks up. But I did hear special thank you. I heard that. So I'll just say you're welcome.
Yes,
I don't know what it's for.
Thank you.
Okay.
connect with my eldest son. We've been busy.
Yeah, man, I apologize about that. I thought we'd be able to link.
No, don't apologize, Chief. Don't apologize, because I know that you've been going to the Arisha, etc., and working on behalf of my family.
Absolutely.
And he's had a really wonderful experience.
Mm-hmm.
So, in terms of his future, his immediate future, he's been able to get some things were just coming to him, Chief. He was just standing or just being himself. So many opportunities were presenting themselves to him that he called me and he says, Dad, Baba, this is happening.
Yeah.
And I said to him, I said, the reason it's happening is because Chief is doing work on behalf of the family. And that is why you are sliding down a chute that's coated in honey. And everything's working out smooth. So I said, even though you haven't been able to link up with Chief, I'm telling you that Chief is doing work on behalf of the family, and it's impacting on what you're doing, and that is why you're getting the benefits of that right now.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say thank you, Chief.
Oh, absolutely.
And then my son said to me, how do I know that Chief's been doing that? And so I said, because I said, Chief doesn't need to tell me he's doing that. I said, I know he's doing that. I can feel he's doing that. So, and it was a definite, there's doubt in my mind. I'm very clear that I was getting the information that you have influenced what was happening for him during the last strong. So I just really wanted to call and say thank you to you, Chief.
Oh, absolutely. And, particularly him, because, I like his energy. I've always appreciated the young man that he is and he's becoming, and one of the things about him, he's very charming. You know what I mean? So he's got that charming, and he charms the universe. So because he's Shango. So Shango is in as well as Oshun, but they're all about charm. You know what I mean? So so he's always gonna get favor from me. For anyone he really encounters, they're going to do special things for him.
Yeah.
He most of the time we speak, we made the conversation. The conversation always drifts to him. He's always asked about, that's that Shango energy at work. Yeah, man.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
Chief. I mean, basically what's happened is, we graduate at the end of to a year. Well, he's been offered a master's program once he's graduated.
Okay. Beautiful. Yeah, we spoke about that.
Somewhere close to you, and
yeah.
And he didn't really ask for it. He didn't really, he didn't ask for it. So I said those things don't happen normally, So Chief, we give thanks. Man.
Oh, for sure, man. For sure, it's my honor. You know that. It's my honor. Yeah,
I know, Chief.
Beautiful.
But I wanted to verbalize it. Number one, to you personally, but also to the aware of the impact that working with you has if they just invest.
Give thanks. I appreciate that, my brother.
All right,
sure.
Chief.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Baba.
Chief. All right. Cool. Enjoy your day.
I just accept, Chief, because I'm on the team. You know it is.
Yeah.
All right, Chief. Peace.
All right. Cool. No problem. Peace.
All right. Peace. Peace, Chief.
All right. Give thanks. Yeah. So of course, many of you may recognize that as Brother Byron, and he, the youth that he's speaking of is an Ibeje, is a twin. And real solid young man. His son is just like him, and his son is more volatile. He's more, but he's got that same smoothness. Brother Byron smooth, but they both got that same smoothness. When you talk to them, you almost have to. You think you're talking to the same person almost. But that's good. That's good news. Yeah, I show preferential treatment to families. You know that I don't try to hide that. And good dawning, everyone in the chat room. Sister Michelle, I know you were in there first. I was fiddling around with things in the background, so I didn't go through my usual good dawnings to everyone. Brother Anthony, Brother Haru, Wajet, Sister Bello, Sister Taisha, Yolanda, Sister Marva, Brother Achille, Brother Keith, Sister Empress, and Bello. Again, Bello asked, "Great dawning, Chief. I was not able to find the information for the Sister Leah video. Can you please repost?" Nope. Mm-mm. Nope. You should have known I was going to say no to that. You should have known I was going to say no to that. No, I'll put it up because I actually didn't put it in the description of the show yesterday, like I said I was. So that's on me. Well, actually, no, just search Leah. Just search Leah Bayaka in YouTube. LeahBayaka. Just search that in YouTube. She has her own channel. I think it's with her name. And the name of the video is Toxic Relationships. And it's a little subtitle. I can't remember the subtitle. But if you just put in Leah Bayaka Toxic Relationships, I'm sure it'll come up. And I'm sure someone probably is going to post it in the chat room for you at some point throughout this session. But so yeah. You know, we were speaking about those opening up those different portals and things like that. And, you know, it's a good example, Brother Byron Collin, and the conversations my son, I'm sorry, his son and I have had over the years. A lot of them for him have been very uncomfortable, you know, because Shango's are very headstrong. They don't really, you know, they don't really believe too much. You tell them until, you know, they got to go through certain things. But one thing about his youth is that he's an advocate of the energy. You know, he's an advocate of the system. He doesn't play with it. You know, he's an athlete, and there were certain things that you know, he was shown and given to do before his games and stuff like that. He does that stuff ritualistically. He does not play. You know, he wears his things that he's supposed to wear and everything like that, and it has paid off for him over the years in his career. You know, so again, you can preach all you want, but the person has to own what it is that they're doing, you know, and when it's that ownership, then it makes a difference. But him being able to go through certain conversations and the discomfort of it, because as I've shared before, people think I'm hard on women. I'm not really hard on women. It's just like I said, sisters have run amok, you know, with the foolishness, and the guys out here are super soft. So when you encounter a real man, it's very uncomfortable. It's almost irritating, you know. But I'm actually hard on the men, you know. So he's had some very rough conversations, some very rough man up conversations with me, and he's suffered through them, gone through them, and that's opened up portals in his own life. So now there's certain things that are happening by default, you know. So we can't really be so afraid a lot of times to go through the looking glass, in a sense. You know, if you look at the ideation, like I was sharing, of Alice in Wonderland, which I was thinking about, like I said yesterday, when Sister Leah was sharing some of her chronicle and some of the, you know, some of her perspective that she's gathered as a result of what she's experienced. And I'm sure not only what she's experienced, what her experiences forced her to reflect on and to research as well. You know, because you could tell by, if you get a chance to check out the links and stuff. Okay, the chat won't let you post links. All right, I'll put it in there then, because I just so happen to have a copy. But you know what? I don't need to put it in there. Just do what I said. Go to YouTube and search for it. That's all. I don't like doing everything all the time for people when they ask, because it sets a bad energy in motion. I don't want to set that energy in motion. It's not healthy for you, believe it or not. So yeah, she was speaking. I was thinking about that whole idea of Alice in Wonderland and just going down the rabbit hole. And, you know, like as she was sharing, like I said, you could feel a lot of her pain, and you could obviously definitely feel a lot of her anger, you know, but there was still articulation there. She wasn't just ranting angry, but, you know, you could feel the heat bubbling under. And She just sometimes, you know, like she said, I had to kind of just move forward and do what I needed to do. So obviously, on some levels, maybe there wasn't closure. Maybe someone didn't really say, hey, I shouldn't have did that to you. I'm sorry. Or like she said, she had to look back at some of her mistakes coming into situations thinking that she was going to change them. And she didn't do that. And obviously there was some disappointment there. And a lot of times I see sisters who experience that where, um, you know, we have this, again, a disillusion with one another because we've been sold a bad bill of sales when it comes to our understanding of how men and women relate to each other, especially melanoid men and women, because our form of relation is different. It's not universal per se. You know, men are not just from Mars and women are not just from Venus. You know, it goes deeper. And a lot of times in relationships, uh, women have this, or females have this concept that they can change men. And on the flip side, men have this concept, or males have this concept that females don't change. So each one is are subtly disappointed as the time goes, as the seasons change, and the female realizes that what she loved about the man in the beginning was his unchanging nature. You know, was his self-directedness, his ability to move in a direction and not veer off the path because of emotional or mental meandering. And um, and he's not going to change from that. He's going to do and be what he said he's going to be. And sometimes there's disappointment there. And on the flip side, a man may see a woman and not really respect her fluid nature. She's water. So there's fluidity. There's always going to be a porousness with her because she's a porous energy. Whether you relate her to the earth or whether you relate her to water, there's porousness. So there's always going to be that ability for things, new ideas to seep in, to enter in, and then she'll begin to change and morph based on the concepts that she takes on. And sometimes males don't realize that because they've been sold a bad bill of sales. They don't really understand how the female psychology works. And a lot of times females don't understand how the male psychology works, you know, and it's different. And I know as soon as you say things like it's different, people get offended. That's usually when the videos get the thumbs down when I see stuff like that. Or I'll look at the calls in the back end, they'll start dropping. You know, because that's the rough information that people do not want to hear. They don't want to relate to that. And I'll give you a good example. Alice in Wonderland, right? I remember having a conversation with someone once. I think I was in a library. And I was grabbing some works. This was some years back, maybe 10 years ago or something. And there was somebody on the checkout line, nosy person, and was like, "Oh, you got some great stuff there." Yeah, whatever, you know. And one of the works that I had in my hand was Alice. I don't think it was Alice in Wonderland per se. Well, there really is no Alice in Wonderland. You put together Alice Underground and Through the Looking Glass together. Those two volumes together consider Alice in Wonderland. But it was something else. I can't remember. But it was related to that. It might have been a breakdown or something. And if I remember correctly, I had grabbed it because I was teaching a workshop on the unconscious mind. And I said, yeah, I might want to pull some language out of this story, you know, because it's a story I always appreciated. And the person was talking to me, and apparently they were like a big fan of that work of Lewis Carroll. And I said, yeah, you know, so we were talking about it. And sometimes, and I guess it's my own nasty way of ending conversations that I'm not enjoying. Yeah, I guess that's the little dirty kid in me. But I have ways of because sometimes I know more about certain things than people think I do. So I may say something to kind of stump them. so I can escape. It's almost like, when Batman throws down the smoke bomb and then he disappears. So I do my little Batman thing. So, this person was going like, yeah, Lewis Carroll, his works. And, I read him as a child. And I said, yeah. I said, I definitely can relate. I said, but his name was actually Charles Dodson. His name wasn't Lewis Carroll. Lewis Carroll was just his pen name. And I said, in all likelihood, he was a pedophile. I'm like, what? Excuse me? I said, yeah. I said, Alice was actually a real person. Her name was Alice Little. And Lewis Carroll met her when he was 24 and she was 4 years old. During that time, he was called what she was called. They called it child friend. Like we say boyfriend, girlfriend. And then those who had a certain fascination towards children, which we call pedophiles, they called them child friends. And I had explained to the person, I said, Alice Little is Liddell. It's not Little. But I said, Alice Little was his child friend. I said, Charles Dodson was actually a math teacher. And he worked for the Christ Church. And at that time in Oxford, teachers had to take a vow of celibacy. Imagine that, right? So most of them who worked for the church, who were teachers, they became ministers. So he was actually the Reverend Lewis Dodson, but he never completely went through seminary and everything, because if he would have had to have done that, then he would have had to have most likely taken on his own congregation. He probably didn't want to do all of that. But, he was a photographer. Actually, well, I mean, probably a hobby photographer, but he used to take all these pictures of Alice and all these little children. But the pictures at that time, you're talking the late 1800s. Oh no, late 1800s, around 1862. That was when actually a lot of the photographs and stuff started to come out, and he would take these images and photos of these children in very adult poses. And you got to understand, you got to put it back with the times. So that was considered like porno back then, considering the time, that particular era, how not only children were portrayed, but how grown women and grown women in particular were portrayed. It was a certain piety that, they were supposed to maintain. So, he basically is like the episode of A Different Strokes, when the bicycle repair guy made Dudley take his shirt off and all that, was taking pictures of him. So it was basically that. So I remember sharing that, and I said it quicker than what I just said it, and the person was kind of stupefied, and I made my little two-step escape. I was like, all right, well, take care, have a great day. But it's an example. A lot of times, sometimes there is a hard element or a rough element to get through in order to get to the actual information that you want. You see, so now you understand that Lewis Carroll, no, that was not his name. And even though he was a photographer, he was never in any of his pictures because he didn't want to be identified. In fact, when mail would come, like fan mail, because the Alice books, I think he had started with, they were poems. He had, I think there was three of them. He had Through the Looking Glass, which, there was Alice's, because the title is actually Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. And I think it was originally Alice's Misadventures or Adventures Underground. That's what it was about, because, she goes through the rabbit hole and stuff. But there was the poem about the hunting of the Snark and the Jabberwocky, right? Now, if you put it in proper context, now knowing that he was in most likelihood a pedophile, right? Because it was never really totally proven, but in most likelihood, he was a pedophile. You start to understand, like, okay, she goes to the looking glass, even the way she was dressed. When you see the illustrations of Alice's clothes, it was very inappropriate for that period, but you start to see, okay, she goes through the looking glass, she sees the drink on a table, and it says, "Drink me," right? Now, you look at the symbology of it and you understand, okay, first of all, she's a little girl. Because again, why wasn't this? You got to look at the time period. It's 1800s. Why wasn't it a boy? Now, and when I'm not saying that like girls can't have adventures, but I'm saying you got to look at the time period. This was a very, very strong, especially we're in England. This is a time of extreme patriarchy. So once you see it's a girl having adventures, like, oh, something's off here. This is weird. It's a little girl, huh? And she drinks this potion, which is basically drugs. He drugs her. And you think about what pedophiles do. They give children cocaine and stuff like that. So she drinks the potion, but the key is with that is that again it represents the absorptiveness, or the porousness of the feminine component. So she drinks something, because it could have been a powder, it could have been a flower, it could have been candy. Take this candy or something, but it was specifically a drink. If you read the story. So now we see, okay, it makes her porous. It makes her more receptive. And of course it drugs her. She gets drugged after she drinks it. So you start to understand that there's a whole nasty backstory here when you really do the science, when you do the research, but just like Alice had to go through the looking glass, right? And a looking glass, in many senses of the word, you could have just said, oh, this is just glass, just a mirror. It's no big deal. But when you're able to fully be receptive and fully see what's going on and fully listen, then you see the specialness or the mystical aspects of things that we deem and consider to be very ordinary in life. So like yesterday's conversation even could have been a very ordinary conversation, or you could have been stuck in a certain reality and dimension where you only heard one thing. Like I know some people would listen and be like, yeah, these brothers, they don't know how to act right. Look what they did with that queen. That's all they heard. Just like some people listen to the show Wednesday with the clip that we played, and all they really got out of it was that queen was done dirty by that guy. You see, because that's a dimensional lockdown that they're in. Even though I specified, no, they're both foul people. We showed it here. Like, look, she's filming him. She puts it out publicly, sends it to World Star. Then she's sitting up there next to him like a big boss hog. And, obviously this is a foul person. But people couldn't even hear that because they're stuck in that narrative of the victimized Black woman and the ravenous beast-like Black man. There are people who I know for a fact, because I could tell not only by the comments, but I could tell by things that were said afterwards, who, when listened to Leah yesterday, came away with the same thing, despite her saying that I came into a family with the wrong concept, with the wrong idea, maybe not even the best motives, and sought to do something that wasn't really the most honorable. And I had to come to terms with that. I know that went in one ear and out the other. No one's trying to hear that. Well, some people are not trying to hear that based on their inability to really go deep into the looking glass. Because remember, the whole story of like Alice in Wonderland, very similar to the story of Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. It's the same thing. They found a portal into the unconscious mind or into the subconscious mind, an ordinary portal. So a tornado becomes a pathway where they could go into something, travel down into that chamber, and rearrange things that exist in the subconscious or the unconscious mind that would later have an effect on their awakened reality, another dimension. So being able to go into the mind, look at the monsters that exist there, look at the problems that exist there, and get through them, become the victor of those situations. And now it has an effect on your everyday consciousness. It has an effect on how your reality is shaped. Your reality moves around, you see? So Alice in Wonderland, of course, was a story that represented that. If you really saw what was being said. Now, some will read it and say, oh, this is just just a mythology. They wouldn't maybe see that. No, this was Alice going into her subconscious. That's why when you see later depictions of it, like there was the one with, well, I know there was the one with Johnny Depp, where he was the Mad Hatter. And that was, I don't remember the name of that movie that came out. It might have been Into the Looking Glass or something, but you saw it was a much more dark and gothic representation. So you could really see the condition of Alice's mind in that one. It was defunct and it was desolate, and they had the land had been taken over by a dictator. You see, now this represented what was going on in her own life. You see, so she had to go into her unconscious mind or a subconscious mind and rectify or become the victor again in order to be able to do that in her conscious walk. See, that's the thing with our new spiritual training phase 1. It's about dealing with the ministry of self, not just rubbing oils on your skin to make your skin shiny, but to figure out why you're not hydrated from inside out. I'm just using that as an example. Our new spiritual training phase 1 is not about skin moisturizing. Okay. But really about understanding that if we don't deal with the inner, if we don't deal with the unconscious things that we project out into the world, the sounds that we send out into the world without consciously looking at it or recognizing it, if we don't deal with that from the unconscious perspective or the subconscious or that lower end perspective first, then we'll never be able to affect any real change in our waking life. You can't really work from the outer to the inner as much as you would like to. It just doesn't, this dimension doesn't function on that particular formula. You see, and a lot of times, again, you may hear someone like Leah speak. You don't realize that if you really, really listen, she's opening up chambers. Like she opened up some chambers for herself. And you saw her standing in the face of her monster, when she got upset and we were, and not that she went off or anything like that, but obviously you could tell when we were talking about being bountiful, bringing things to the table, as she shared, she had a bad experience with that. Again, there was some promises that weren't kept. So just in that sense, that's a monster. That's a beast that she may have conquered at some point, or she may still be chipping away at. Who knows? It's her subconscious experience that she's still going through, and we all have them. So as we even listen to her, we can open up those chambers along with her, because we all may have similar experiences. I know many of you may have, or I know you have. We don't have to guess that one. You've been promised one thing, wasn't delivered, or someone presented themselves with something and you committed yourself totally to it. Like she said, I moved off the continent for, I think she said 4 years, 4 years, lived in West Africa. You might have completely said, I'm all in, I'm all over here. And then you find out later that this is not what you were told it was. But now I'm here. Or now I'm pregnant and here, or whatever the situation is. Sometimes we end up linking on to certain things or certain people before we actually do the knowledge, before we do the research on them. And that leads to years of just trauma and pain that we end up dealing with afterwards. But, again, you can look at that and you can say, okay, wow, that's just a story. You could look at it from a two-dimensional place. She spoke, it's done. Or you could use that particular information or her experience or the discomfort that you felt during that experience as a portal into another dimension. Because remember, portals are not just things, they're people. People can be a portal. I could be a portal into another dimension, and I've had that happen. Matter of fact, it was funny because it happened right after that call. Remember, I kept saying, yeah, I'm late on a reading. I had a reading at 3 and the show ran over into 3:20. We could have went even longer. I mean, it was a good discussion. And but I had a session that I had to do, but something similar like that happened, when I was doing the invocations for that session. Yeah, I'm gonna read a comment real quick. Comment. Did I say comment? Chief, I knew to hang on. This is what Sister Michelle says. I knew to hang on past the pedophile part before denouncing the book entirely. Was this a conscious message the perv wanted to relay, or is this accidental? When you say conscious message, I'm wondering if you're saying, like, was he expressing his pedophilic desires through his work? If that is what you're saying, the answer is yes. because, and I know there's a delay with the chat, by the way, so you might hear this a minute after I say it. But yeah, absolutely. If you really, now that you know that, read the book again. Like, you're gonna see there's all kind of sexual inferences in his poems and in his books. You know, even Humpty Dumpty. Because remember, Humpty Dumpty, the character of Humpty Dumpty comes from Charles Dodson. You know, so aside from Shakespeare, they say he's the most quoted writer of our time. The first being the Bible, and then Shakespeare, and then it's Lewis Carroll or Charles Dodson. But yeah, absolutely. If you read through it, yeah, there's all kind of, even like I said, the beginning, the way she's the illustrations, you know, the way she's depicted, it's very sexual for that time. Now we look at it, she was dressed like a little maid, but you know, again, you got to put it in context, you know, and you can easily do that just by Googling images of women and little girls, you know, in the 1800s, how they actually presented themselves. And you'll see, you know, there was a certain forwardness that she had. In fact, when you read the book, you see that she became a maid in the beginning. She was hired as a maid. You know, when you watch the Disney cartoons and stuff, they skip past so much, of course, you know, they have to squeeze a lot into a small space. But what you see in that instance, you see that there's a little part that she says where she's like, if they really knew, you know, I'm taking this, basically says, I'm taking this job now, but if they really knew who I was. Now, we'll look at that and be like, okay, what, so what are you talking about? But you gotta, again, you have to put it into context. You remember the book came out in Alice's Adventures in Wonderland came out in 1865. So for a little girl to say something like that is very suggestive at that time. If they really, I'm taking this job as a maid, but if they really knew who I were, because remember how women were treated and depicted in European society. This is in Oxford, you know, during that time. You see, like, oh, this little girl actually has another agenda. In fact, if you look online, I'm sure it's online because I have it somewhere. That might have been the book I got that day at the library. But this is actually a picture of Charles Dodson kissing Alice Little. Okay, yeah, I bet you can find it. You know, I usually say look online because I know a lot of the books and things that I've gotten years ago, you know, that stuff is very accessible now. But and remember, he was 24 and she was 4 years old when they met. But there's a picture somewhere, I'm sure it's floating around, of them kissing. You know, so yeah, he was straight up, you know, he was a pervert. He was a pedophile, man. I mean, it's no big secret at this point. I mean, well, it's a secret still to some degrees, but I guess even though it wasn't proven, you can put one and two together. You know, the guy was a pedophile. You know, and not that that's some new thing. And I mean, it's not like we haven't heard about reverends, you know, in the church playing with children. That's, you know, that's no new thing. But anyway, like I was saying, so again, the concept or the idea of passing ordinary objects and using those objects as a means to open up portals, you know, whether it be a Rubik's Cube or whether it be an Orisha pot, right? We say, well, this is just a pot, just a pot. You know, it could be an axe, it could be a machete, you know, it could be an iron cauldron. And we use it as a means to go from one place to another. And many of these works, like I said, The Wizard of Oz, Alice in Wonderland, and they're basically the same story. They're basically about a little girl, again, a little girl who travels into the unconscious mind to rearrange facts and realities that she holds within herself in order to change her relationship that she has with her waking life or with the awakened world, you see. And sometimes to do that, she has to go through scary experiences. She has to fight witches and flying monkeys and all. Of course, all of these different entities represent different problems in her awakened life, you see. But she has to deal with them at their source. So it's the same thing. Sometimes you may have a conversation. There may be something alive in you, right? Let's say if you got mommy issues and you come across a woman who every time you speak to her, maybe through her anger or maybe even her venom, but her anger or her hurt or frustration, she deals with you in a way where she makes you feel like that little child again. You feel 9 years old again or 8 years old with your mother being mean to you or whatever your issue is, yelling at you, saying things to you that don't make you feel your best. And a lot of times our response is to avoid individuals like that. We'll say, I don't want to be around people like that because it doesn't feel good. They don't make me feel good. You know, um, and we don't understand sometimes that they represent the Jabberwocky. They represent the monsters that we need to slay, and we have to go through the portal of even what we're feeling at that time, whether we agree with what they're saying or not, because they are the guardians or the sentinels to the next dimension that we need to go through. If you look at most mythology, when one person wants to go across a bridge, there's usually a troll there or some type of gatekeeper, right? And they usually have to solve a riddle or fight the person or something like that. But it's a scary experience. Usually, if they don't solve the riddle, they get killed. So they have to make a decision. Either you solve this riddle and you get to go through, or you do it wrong and I kill you. You see, so they have to go through some type of what we call the dark night of the soul. But they have to go through some experience where it's really hard or it's really lonesome or it's really scary in order for them to break through now to that moment of enlightenment. You see, so sometimes that troll is a person. You see, like there might have been men who were listening to Sister Leah yesterday and were like, maybe you might have gone through a similar experience, except it was on the other side and you have your own story to tell. Like one of the things she shared, and I was kind of giggling when she was talking about it because I related when she said, "Yeah, I tried to go into that situation, and I really thought I was hot stuff, and he was going to pick me over everybody else, and this and that." I've had that happen in my own personal experience. Younger sister come through and think that she's gonna outshine everyone because I'm flyer, whatever. What I don't want to go through the list, but I look better and I cook better than everyone else, and this and that and that, and Chief is gonna really, feel me. He might even dump these other broads for me. And when they see it ain't even about that with me, it's a whole different program going on over here that you need to learn. Then a lot of times it's tantrums. It's all kind of mess. And you got to kick them out. All right, beat it, get lost. You're causing problems. So some men may have been listening to her and have felt the other side. Like, nah, wait a minute, there's another side to this. And there's a whole nother story there, but you gotta listen. Like even when she shared about, well, the man, if I'm having babies, man should be able to take care of me. And I'm like, no, I don't really agree with that. Even though you hear that a lot, and when people talk about polygyny, can he support 3 or 4 wives? That's not a healthy mindset. And I could have broke it down on that show how that's not healthy. And what one is really saying and that's really, I don't want to take away from what she was saying, but I could have just showed how that there's some Western influence even in that thought. And I'm one who's lived on a continent too, so I could have said, well, no, wait a minute. I've been there too. And this is how it goes. Those women have businesses. They have farmland with babies strapped to their back. There's a reason you see those pictures, in National Geographic of women farming with babies on their back, or in the marketplace with babies sitting there on the side. But I didn't want to do all of that because it wasn't about trying to dismantle her perspective in lieu of shining over her, because her perspective is valid. You see, she's saying that, well, the men should be able to support the women. That's valid. That's for her dimension. They should. Okay, cool. Let's hear it. And sometimes the disagreement that you may have with it is your monster that you have to fight. Sometimes it's being quiet and not just being quiet, but being still and really listening to what the person is saying. Sometimes that's harder than arguing. Sometimes that's harder than debating and trying to win. Listening, and not just being quiet and waiting till they finish so that you could say what you want to say, as so many people do, which is a really disgusting habit. But actually truly listening to the person, their perspective, and where they're coming from, even though maybe every word or every other word you're hearing and you're like, nah, and you can probably even stand in front of the person, prove your perspective to the point where you back them down and make them quiet. But so what? Maybe it's not always about that. Maybe everything is not always so black and white. Going back to the skunk reference, of course. Um, Maybe there is another place where, when you figure out that middle point between what you agree with and what you don't agree with, the truth rises up in the middle, and that truth itself is a dimension. It's a portal unto itself, because truth is a world. There is a world of truth, and there is a world of illusion. You see, and truth is what we're all going to agree on. The illusionary world is the disagreements. So sometimes it's good to allow yourself to hold your disagreement, but really listen, and then take that person's what you disagree with, and take what you have that you hold as being factual, as being right, and then merge them together and then see what you get. Because again, what is the act of creation other than I want to go this way, then I want to go that way? When you're pumping, when you're pushing and pulling in order to create life, I'm going this way. No, I'm going that way. I'm going this way. I'm going that way. I'm going this way. That's all it is. And then what rises out of that? The truth, or understanding, a child, purity. You see, and the child may say, listen, I don't agree with neither one of you. I'm going to take the best qualities of you both, but neither one of you got it. Now let me show you the next phase of what this really represents and what it's going to be. You see? So that's something I wanted to share, and wanted to see if individuals over this strong end could work on, could take a look at. Some of the things that we may be avoiding, or we see as very ordinary and plain, or some of the people who we may see as very ordinary and plain, and don't necessarily witness or don't give the credence and the weight and the heaviness to the value that they may be able to bring to our journey and our perspective by their ability to open up certain portals, and recognizing that sometimes the opening of those portals may be uncomfortable at first. It may be something that's not smooth and beautiful by the water and staring into the flame and dancing around the fire. It may not be that. It may be a big old sea creature standing in front of us, and we have to let that creature scream in our face. It's almost like the movie Aliens. You always see that famous trailer commercial movie Aliens back in the days, where the alien has the mouth inside of its mouth. And again, that's representative of the womb. That's the hell mouth, or the Leviathan. And I think it's Sigourney Weaver in that trailer, and she just has to stand there quiet, because the aliens are blind. They see by movement, and the mouth comes right next to her face, and she just has to stand there and deal with it. And then it goes away. Sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's standing in the face of what you're most terrified of that opens up the portals for you, because that's the gatekeeper. There's a sacred Odu that speaks about that in the Ogunda series. Sometimes we judge things by appearance, and we end up losing opportunities because we make quick, harsh judgments. You see? And sometimes you need to stand in the face of what is unsightly. Stand in the face of what is uncomfortable. Stand there for a little while in stillness, like a baby, and in receptivity, and then allow that portal to open to you, because you had the maturity of silence. You didn't feel like you had to pollute and clutter the air with your opinion or with your facts. Sometimes it's not really about all of that. And you understand that when you start traveling around those wills that we speak about. I'm going to get into that a little bit more this Sunday. We're going to get into the will concept, because those wheels of life, or what we sometimes even call the medicine wheels, are actually very central to equinox celebrations. And, of course, the equinox is coming up on the 20th. Well, the astronomical equinox. And we're going to kind of get into the will concept, what that means, and how it represents itself as that event. All right. So that has been our segment, our sunrise salutation. And I want to say peace to all of you in the chat room. I see you guys have been building back and forth, which is good. I'm laughing because she said, yeah, when I hear that word building, I'm like, ugh. I know. You see how certain terms now have become bastardized. When you say nation build, like now it's like nation, oh my God, one of them, or hotep, or peace, or whatever, allowing people to hijack things. I say that in one of the intros for Chief Speaks. Don't allow people to hijack your rainbow. Just because one community says we're going to use the rainbow as our flag, doesn't mean now you have to be afraid of rainbows. You don't have to be or afraid to use that particular symbology. It still has great power to it. That representation of the chakras, or the bedazzlement of Osumare, or who we call the rainbow serpent. Okay, there's still great value in that. We can share. We can share the flag. We can share the rainbow. They can have it. It's all good. It's cool. But yeah, so I just wanted to share that and give you all something to think about today as you close out. For some of you, you close out your 9 to 5 strong, and those of us who have our own situations, every day is pretty much the same. So Friday is no different than Saturday. We're on the grind. We're out here to get it. But just give you something to think about this dawning. All right. And I'll be back this Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern for Chief Speaks. And we're gonna dig deeper into that equinox. I think you guys will, if you like the mythology and the stories that I share with you and things like that, and learning about different indigenous cultures, I think you'll like this Sunday, because I'm going to get into that side of it a little bit more this time. Not as much as the psychological aspect, but we're going to deal with the Mayan principles as it deals with the equinox. And we're also going to deal with, I'll probably go through the Hindi structure a little bit more when it deals with the equinox, the Mayan, the Hindi, and I might throw in some Ethiopian cosmology, depending on how the flow feels. This, I go by flow. I don't have a script, but I know I'm going to deal with the Mayan piece a little bit. I'm going to deal with that will, that great will, and how that relates to the seasonal changes. And like I said, I might throw in some Ethiopian stuff in there too. I try to do it, just keep it balanced. I like to bounce around the globe a little bit like that when I'm teaching. I think it's fun, and it shows respect to all of those great cultures who have given us all this great information. It's just a sign of respect. All right, everyone, drive safe today, okay? And if you're not driving, you're on public transportation, take a look at the bus driver before you get on. If they look a little wacky, they look like a wackadoodle, take the next bus, man. You could be a little late. Just tell your boss, the bus was packed. All right, until such time, be well.